Hey everyone, guess who had to re-record all her audio because I accidentally had the noise gate too high the first time around and I recorded half an hour of audio that was half muted. Also, Disney is coming after me. A couple of my videos have gotten demonetized. I expect more of them to be demonetized later on, so I am opening the Patreon back up. Not sure what I'm gonna do with it yet, but just in case. Hi, my name is Aster, and as this dreary winter finishes up, I've been starting to think about the tropics. Can you blame me? Before we get into the meat of this video, we have to discuss two important aspects of Moana's soundtrack, specifically two aspects of the song How Far I'll Go. First, I must invoke the name of Lin-Manuel Miranda again because Moana was his Disney debut. Second, Moana was the first Disney princess film released after the generational success that was Frozen. I discussed this a long time ago in another video, but here are the spark notes. The biggest song from Frozen, Let It Go, is very pop adjacent. You see it most in the chorus. The chord progression is effectively an embellishment of the four-chord pop progression. It also repeats its chorus the way a contemporary non-theater song does. The structure of the song is very standard: verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, end. This isn't a knock on Let It Go. Over a decade removed from the inundation that was Frozen Mania, I think it's a pretty great song. Of course, it was in Disney's best interest to try and repeat that formula for Moana's showstopper song How Far I'll Go. The chords of the chorus, when transposed to the same key, bears a striking resemblance to Let It Go. Let me demonstrate using some simple piano versions. Once my sisters were in the car singing How Far I'll Go, and I sang Let It Go over it, they yelled at me. There are differences between the two songs, though. Let It Go goes on a real journey in its composition. It starts broken and lonely and ends triumphant and powerful. That makes sense, since Elsa is throwing away years of restraint throughout the course of the song. How Far I'll Go, on the other hand, is more subdued. It's still dynamic, but Moana's character moment here is far less grandiose. It makes sense. Moana didn't have nearly as brutal an upbringing as Elsa, and these songs are at different points in their respective characters' arcs. This is all to say, Lin knew what he was doing. He worked with some elements of Let It Go, but understood the actual goal of the song in its context. The song's instrumental palette is also very simple. By the first chorus, we have a soft backing of acoustic guitar, a bit of ornamentation, and a very gentle sustained horn. The percussion is done with a shaker to keep things soft.
And no one knows how far it goes.
Perfect. That captures growing confidence and a sense of adventure. It's saving space and energy so it could go somewhere. That's why when we get to verse 2 and the low rhythmic strings come in, it's a natural follow-up. It doesn't go down, it's carrying the energy from the chorus.
I'll go, I know, everybody on this island seems so happy.
Verse 2 also gives us something I really like in songwriting, which is when the end of the pre-chorus is a big question for the chorus to answer. The song even holds up to let it sink in.
What is wrong with me?
When we get to chorus 2 and then chorus 3, the song picks up, but it isn't overbearing. It's very pretty, it's very digestible. The high strings add a final layer of texture, like you're not soaring yet, but you will.
And let me know what's beyond that.
The reason I gave this quick rundown is because it shows how the song uses elements of both pop songwriting and theater songwriting to enhance its musical storytelling in a way the then current audience connected with. It's also an efficient song, clocking in at just 2.5 minutes. Moana 2, which came out quite a while ago now, needed its own How Far I'll Go. That's expected. It's like how Lion King 2 had its own actually pretty decent attempts at Circle of Life and Be Prepared. Moana 2 also lacked Mr. Miranda. He was busy working on Mufasa. Definitely for the worse, not the better. The chosen songwriters for Moana 2 were instead Emily Bear and Abigail Barlow. They're an impressively young composer-lyricist duo who got famous on TikTok, where their unofficial Bridgerton-inspired musical exploded in popularity and won actual awards. You'd think Barlow and Bear would be big on musical theater songwriting theory. This is not the case. Indeed, Lin-Manuel Miranda had to scramble to teach them basic concepts of theater songwriting, like what an I Want song is. That's kind of like hiring someone to write a story and having to teach them about the concept of a character arc. Now, as far as storytelling of the movie goes, I'm not assigning blame on the songwriters for the general plot of Moana 2. That would be insane. It's not Barlow and Bear's fault that Moana is having recursive character development. However, it was within their power to do something interesting with this song. Hold on, wait, I think this is better lighting. With all that out of the way, let's look at Beyond, Moana 2's answer to How Far I'll Go.
Oh, these stars above the ocean.
What catches my ear the most in this opening line is the melody and chord choice. It's so dour. And I do see what they were going for, a lonely confusion, but it's melodramatic with the cold, hollow backing. Combine that with the actual words, I know these stars above the ocean, and you can sense the dissonance. Moana sounds hopeless, not questioning or doubtful, but hopeless, like, despite my knowledge and experience, I am at a total loss. The opening line of How Far I'll Go works because it doesn't dive right into melodrama, it's just self doubt, it holds back.
I've been staring at the edge of the water.
In Beyond, the dour mood continues to the next line.
Now new skies call me by name.
I can usually tell when a top line writer struggled to place the words to the melody. This is a good example. The notes sound randomly chosen to the awkward sentence because the meter and phonetics got wacky. Look at line 1. I know these stars above the ocean. It follows a pattern of unstressed stressed syllables known as iambic meter. Line 1 is already a bit weird since it doesn't end on the full metric foot. Like if the line was I know these stars above the ocean blue, that would be complete iambic meter. But also the line wanted to end on tension, and removing the final syllable of the meter was a good way to do it. Line 2 is emphasized as follows. Now new skies call me by name. That's a mess. That's not in any meter. Worse, the first two syllables are now new, which is kind of a slimy combination of phonemes. Worse than that, when you combine it with the previous line, it makes literally no sense. There's no conjunction, so they're just two unrelated clauses. I guess you could put a semicolon.
And suddenly, nothing feels the same.
Wow, how deep did you dig for that one? You found probably the most cliche, nondescript sentence you could have. What do you mean by nothing feels the same? Yes, I know the definition, but what do you feel now? Why does nothing feel the same? Go back to How Far I'll Go.
Never really knowing why.
Still basic, but placed better. We know what Moana is referring to. Moana is expressing her frustration with her lack of direction and understanding she has with her place in the world. It's attached to something more descriptive and personal in I've been staring at the edge of the water. Nothing feels the same is the type of sentence that would drive an EMT crazy. What's wrong? I don't know, nothing feels the same. What was the status quo that's been disrupted? I understand that Moana is intimidated by this new call to adventure, but that's not the general status quo of the setting, that's just her emotions in the moment.
I know the path that must be chosen.
The way both three-line parts of the verse here start with I know is also how the second verse of How Far I'll Go is structured.
I know everybody on this island
Interesting.
but this is bigger than before.
Okay, we do have a conjunction, but it doesn't really help the rest of the line. Moana 1 ends with a battle against like a giant lava god, so why is Moana so unnerved? It doesn't get much bigger than that. As a full sentence, these two lines are also quite nondescript. Very basic vocabulary. There's no real lyricism happening until the final line of the stanza.
Winds have changed, tides turn me far away from shore.
And I like this, because there's imagery. Imagery is often a good remedy for boring nondescript sentences because it creates a more vivid picture. Instead of things are different and I feel called away again, wind and tides are invoked. Our brain's associations kick in and we're offered a clearer image to grip onto. This is the most functional line of verse 1. In fact, the stanza should have been built around this. Instead, it seems like it was built around How Far I'll Go. That much should be obvious by now. The logical progression is very similar. Here's the thing I'm familiar with, there's something beyond what I know that is calling to me. The pre-chorus is a divergence from that. The two songs differ in what they decide to double down on. How Far I'll Go focuses on the strength of the call.
Turn I take, every trail I track, every path I make, every road leads back.
Beyond, meanwhile, chose to focus on how far away the call wants to take Moana.
Forever far from home.
You can also tell the divergence in presentation. How Far I'll Go uses the pre-chorus as a buildup of determination, and Beyond stays slow and uncertain. Considering the context, that's strange for Beyond. Why would Moana care about leaving behind her island to answer a call? Did she not do that in the first movie? This level of uncertainty feels like a step backwards in her character. She spent years as the island's chieftain and navigator. She, of all people, should not be this nervous, right? I also want to point out this use of harmony at the end of the pre-chorus. If you want a character to feel lonely, probably the last thing you want is harmonized vocals. Yeah, I know it could be the spirits or whatever, but they don't belong in this piece for reasons of emotional communication. If Moana was feeling the strength of spirits and ancestors, she would not sound this trepidatious. And when it comes to the lead harmony, I don't think it's meant to be spirits.
If I go beyond.
There's low chanting in the background of the chorus, and I think that would be the spirit, while these direct vocal harmonies sound more like Moana's voice layering over itself. And that's a shame. Ali Cravalho's voice is lovely and strong, it doesn't need the artificial buff. And musical theater songs generally don't use disembodied harmonies like this. They're meant to be sung live, so harmonies almost always come from either a chorus or a duet partner.
Will I lose myself between my home and what's unknown?
More of the same. There's no progression here. In How Far I'll Go, the chorus is where determination turns into confidence and assuredness. The same could be said about a closer comparison in Let It Go.
Let it go, can't hold it back anymore.
Beyond's chorus also has this line.
With the future of our people still defined.
Still to be found. Even Google Docs clocked this as incorrect, and that thing is wrong half the time. Oh, and in the couplet before that one, we have our second rhyme of home and known in the song.
My home and what's unknown.
The pre-chorus has forever far from home rhymed with I've ever known, while the chorus has my home rhymed with unknown. That screams first draft. You know how in prose writing you don't want to use the same keywords too close together? In songwriting, you don't want to use the same rhyming pair in unrelated parts of the song, especially this close together.
Can I go beyond?
When you compare this to the ending line of How Far I'll Go's chorus, you can once again see the backwards character development.
Oh, there's just no telling how far I'll go.
Is a statement, an exclamation even. Can I go beyond is a question, it's doubt. Another weird aspect of this ending line is how the last note is held like the song is about to end. From here, both songs take the chorus's momentum into the second verse, and they do so by adding percussion.
There is destiny in motion.
In How Far I'll Go, the short break between the chorus and verse 2 makes that momentum carry naturally.
Oh, there's just no telling how far I'll go. I know everybody on this island.
In Beyond, the big ending note means we have to drop down into the next verse. That's not a bad thing. I should have said it earlier, but we do have to acknowledge that these are two different songs that serve two different purposes. However, that's also the major problem with Beyond. It does not act like it is a different song. It does not feel like it was conceptualized as the song that plays when Moana is questioning leaving home again. It feels like it was conceptualized as How Far I'll Go Part 2. Now, verse 2 of Beyond actually uses a technique I want to point out.
There is destiny in motion.
Verse 2 is only 3 lines instead of 6, so motion here isn't rhymed. However, it does rhyme with ocean, which was used in the same position in verse 1. Our brains make the connection. I don't have a name for this, it's like a imprint rhyme.
They're calling me. I must reply.
The use of reply here absolutely fries me, like it's so business casual. You reply to an email, you answer a call. The pre-chorus goes on with more questioning. If I could leave, how could I ever say goodbye? Again, it's stagnant. Verse 1 was, I'm being called and have to go somewhere unknown. Pre-chorus 1 was, I have to leave everything behind to go somewhere unknown. Chorus 1 was, I have to leave everything behind to go somewhere unknown, can I do it? Verse 2 is, will I have to leave everything I've built behind? A question I thought we'd already answered. Like, yeah, isn't that the whole conceit of the first part of the song? That she has to leave everything she's built behind? Pre-chorus 2 is, I'm being called and have to leave everything behind. It's like a mix and match. I could probably make a chart out of it, see? I do like the major harmony over the minor chord here. It's an unusual but distinguishing choice. It sticks with me. Emily Bear is an excellent pianist, so it doesn't surprise me that she can pull from all sorts of compositions for her own pieces. Abigail Barlow, on the other hand. A non-rhyme for a barely functional sentence is crazy, skull emoji. The previous chorus had a rhyme here. Will I lose myself between my home and what's unknown, can I go beyond? In the same spot of the second chorus, our ears expect another rhyme. Instead, we get nothing. The meter changed. Listen. The placement of the empty beat moved. In fact, I think I may have miscalculated. The word go in the first chorus is another rhyme. It's just a slant. Home, unknown, go. In the second chorus, these same beats would be no, here, and there. 0 for 3. The second chorus's line isn't even a different meaning than the first chorus's, so why change it at that point? Just use the same line. The next couplet is the same between both choruses, and it's the worst one. With the future of our people still defined. Oh, and the final line in the second chorus is way less dramatic because it dropped off way down for the bridge.
I go beyond.
I already mentioned a comparison to Let It Go as a potentially closer match, but by this point in Let It Go, Elsa has already made significant progress in her character. She's gone from frightened to testing the waters.
Time to see what I can do to test the limit.
Beyond is still at the same point as it was at the beginning. After chorus 2, we hit the bridge. The bridge exists to remind us that Moana has a baby sister,
If I'm not here to hold her hand.
which could have been an interesting angle to work with and given the song something of a real identity, something to distinguish it, something that Moana could hold on to and use to help her characterization. Okay, good bridge. Now, moving on to nothing.
Oh, what are you so worried about?
This song break feels like it's talking to me directly, like it knew I would make this exact script.
Last time you weren't old enough to understand all you could lose.
Thanks for answering my criticism. Now we know what's different from last time. And okay, that's another angle you could have worked with. Maybe instead of asking the same basic questions over and over, you could have talked about what she now has to lose. Moana kept saying she had to leave everything behind. What is everything? What does it mean to Moana? In How Far I'll Go, Moana is characterized with a solid goal in mind. Prove herself by seeing what she can achieve on a path she chose for herself.
Satisfied if I play along, but the voice inside sings a different song.
The choruses solidify what that means to her. Beyond doesn't work like that. It never specifies anything. The spoken dialogue does the work.
This is bigger than Motunui. Bigger than us.
Maybe that could have been the final chorus. Would have been a better progression than the actual final chorus, which is a sudden swerve into self-affirmation.
And although I don't know when.
Very cool that this grown-up and more mature Moana is instantly fixed by external validation like she needs it. Completely worth bringing the song to a screeching halt for. Oh, there's another non-rhyme here.
Reach these ends again, 'cause I know who I am.
I'm glad she knows who she is, although I don't think that's the answer to her own questions.
I am Moana.
A more fitting and specific statement for this final chorus would have been, "I'll take the risk for the sake of my people," which is actually alluded to for one clause.
Then we'll know.
They will know as in the denizens of the island. That's the most important thing. That's what drives Moana. That gives her more dimension than "I can do it because I'm me," although that would make a good Nike shirt. You know, Barlow and Bear claimed in an interview that kids would eventually end up singing Moana 2 songs to the point of annoyance. That did not happen. K-pop Demon Hunters filled that niche. But even without the existence of Golden, I don't think small children would have latched on to Beyond. Melodically and instrumentally, the song is too mature, if that makes sense. It makes unusual choices, and it's not exactly peppy or sunny like its counterpart. Lyrically, it's immature. It's not as distinct or specific as more heartfelt I Want songs, and it's clunky at several points. There are no sentences that stick with you. How Far I'll Go isn't even that distinct or complex a song, it just does its job well. And that brings me to my main point. Barlow and Bear understood that Let It Go and How Far I'll Go did work, just not why. Barlow and Bear understood How Far I'll Go worked to give Moana an arc where she builds confidence to go off and have her adventure. Barlow and Bear did not understand that a song's arc must progress consistently and gradually. They understood How Far I'll Go begins with uncertainty. They did not understand that they needed to communicate what that uncertainty is. They understood How Far I'll Go uses oceanic imagery. They did not understand how to use it past throwing it in a couple lines. They know A and B need to exist, but not how to connect them. Here's a really hopeless beginning, here's a really hopeful ending. What's between the two? Eh? It's a shame because the composition does communicate the emotions decently well. At face value, the chorus actually does a great job hitting that feeling of doubt the first couple times around, but the lyrics cannot keep up at all. I'd say Beyond is a symptom of a greater problem though, and that's trope-based writing. Instead of understanding how to communicate a story holistically, writers decide on what tropes they want, what specific beats they want to hit, and then proceed to feel their way through the dark and attempt to connect those tropes. This is all over storytelling at the moment. It's what AO3 is built on, and if you click on any recent YA or romantasy book on Goodreads, chances are the reviews or even the description will list all the tropes for you. It's about giving both the writer and reader the satisfaction of seeing the plot beat they like over and over again. It's a writing practice that creates fractured, poorly paced stories because the focus is on reaching those tropes, connective tissue be damned. Beyond wanted its moment of near hopelessness and got it. It wanted to end on grandiose optimism, and got it. Connecting these two extremes in one 4-minute song isn't easy, but we know it can be done. Let It Go knew how to keep itself progressing so its big ending wasn't a ridiculous sharp turn of character development. Beyond meanders around asking the same questions until a ghost comes in and gives Moana a pep talk. Only then can she go from 0 to 60 and declare to herself that she can save the day. Barlow and Bear's original project, the unofficial Bridgerton musical, seems to run on this logic too. Many songs slot nicely into some generic musical template without carrying a consistent identity or theme. The ones that sound more distinct often veer into melodrama. It's like if a Frank Wildhorn production had the precision of a water balloon.
I burn, you burn for me.
And that's what trope-based writing does. Look at 500,000 word fanfics with no end in sight. Look at Epic the Musical. Do you know why that soundtrack resonates with so many people? Because it's almost always at 100. It's always hitting some emotional trope at full force. It yells and it cries. It's great for playlists about your original characters. And if you like that, great. It's just not sustainable storytelling. Every writer needs to understand how to move from an established beginning to an established ending in a way that feels gradual, natural, and thematically enriching. If Barlow and Bear want to be a serious songwriting duo, they have to sit down and study beyond TikTok. Learn to write holistically and you will see the difference. I hope you enjoyed this video. Where else have you noticed trope-based songwriting? Subscribe and join the Discord if you like, and have a wonderful day.